Good
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm continuing with whatever I left in the last class. So in the last class, I think I was talking about passing of risk. Okay, so moving on, how do you transfer a title by a person who is not the owner? Okay, if a person is not an owner to one property, how do you transfer the title? Okay, so the general rule is only the owner can sell the goods. The title will be transferred from the owner to the person who is going to buy the property. Okay, so conversely, a sale of an article by a person who is not an owner but has authority given by the owner can also sell a property. Okay, let's say that you're going to sell a house, but you as a owner is not here at the moment. You're not here. Okay, you're, let's say that you're overseas. Okay, so someone will represent you and you will give them authority to sell your property, right? So அதோட அந்த Latin maxim is known as nemo dat quod non habet. Okay, or which can be translated to no one can pass a better title than he himself has. That is, only the owner can actually pass the title. Even if I am representing the owner and I am trying to transfer the title to someone else, I am trying in by representing the owner, I'm trying to sell the property and I'm trying to transfer the title from one person to another. I can merely act as a representative, but I myself cannot give the title to the buyer. Okay, it is the owner that he's the person who is going to actually give up the title and give it to someone else. That is, the owner will only be able to transfer the property, fully transfer the property. Okay, so this is transfer of title by a person who is not the owner. Next is, what are the exceptions to this particular rule? We already saw that only the owner can transfer the title, but what are the exceptions to this general rule? First one is, if you're a mercantile agent, if you're going to be a mercantile agent who is an in-between party, then you have the authority to transfer the title. Okay. Second one is, if you are the co-owner, but even if you're the co-owner, you have to talk to all the other owners. Let's say that you and two other people own a particular property, then not only you but the two other people should also be in consent to sell it to another party, and whatever money you get out of selling that property, you will share among the three of you. Okay, so this is sale by co-owner. Next is sale by a person in possession under voidable contract. If the contract is voidable, then sale by the person is allowable. It comes under exemption. Okay, and sale by a seller in possession after the sale. Okay, after the sale has been carried out, after the contract has been signed, after the person has paid, and after the property has been transferred, after the title has been transferred, after the deed has been transferred, the buyer becomes the owner now. Okay, the title has been fully transferred, so that person can transfer the title in succession. This person can start selling that particular item, okay, by particular property. Okay, so sale by a buyer in possession. Buyer, after the sale is done with, I am the buyer, and I possess the property. I fully possess the property. In that case, I will be allowed to sell the uh, sell the property. Okay, I have full control to sell the property. Next one is called as estoppel. Okay, so what does estope means? First, we'll see what does estope mean. Estope is legal principle that prevents someone from arguing something or asserting a right that contradicts. Okay, so if someone is, you are preventing someone from arguing over that particular property, so that is called as your estoppel. Okay, so by estoppel, if you're going to sell the property or transfer the title, then you have exception. Okay, under this rule you have exception. Okay, next is sale by an unpaid seller. Okay, you are the seller to a property, someone wants to buy a property from you. Okay, you have signed the contract, but that person has not paid you the money, has not paid you the money in full, he has not given you money at all. In that case, you can go ahead and sell it to another person. Okay, completely different person, that is completely allowed. Okay, and next one, final one is sale by a person under other laws. Okay, under other laws க்கு ஒரு example என்ன அப்படின்னா, you, let's say that you are a pawn shop owner. Okay, you own a pawn shop and someone has come and pawned away some property, let's say some gold or the other. Okay, yes, someone has come and pawned away his gold bangle. Okay, and you have given them some money. He is supposed to pay interest as well as they pay the original amount to get back the property. But that person has not done so. He has not paid the interest, nor has he paid the full amount that is due. Okay, in that case, you are allowed to sell the property after contacting the person multiple times and after trying to get the money back from him. Okay, because as a pawn shop owner, you are under the legal obligation to safeguard the goods that were pawned by the pawnee. Okay, so if the person is not willing to pay the interest nor the full amount that is due, then you can sell the property that has been pawned away to you. Okay, any questions idhula? Okay,
No, ma'am.
next one is next one is performance of contract of sale. HOD has come. Go check now. Acha, okay. Contract of sale. So performance of contract of sale is nothing but the delivery part of your sale. Okay, so when is your contract fully performed? When you are paid and when the product is delivered. So the performance of contract of sale defines a simple transaction where the seller delivers the good in exchange for payment. Okay, so when is the contract fully performed? When you actually deliver the goods and when you are paid in full. Okay, so delivery is the very important part here, very important part of your performance of sale. So next we'll talk about delivery. டெலிவரின்றது என்னன்னா வாலண்டரி ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் ஆஃப் பொசிஷன் ஆஃப் குட்ஸ் ஃப்ரம் ஒன் பர்சன் டு ஒன் அதர். ஓகே, திஸ் கேன் பி போத் பிசிக்கல் டெலிவரி ஆர் அ டோக்கன் டெலிவரி. Okay, in case you are buying, let's say you are buying an ice cream, you're paying for an ice cream and you are buying an ice cream. In that case, ice cream will be delivered directly to you. Okay, உடனே கையில கொடுத்துருவோம். கரெக்ட் தானே? ஆனா let's say that you are buying a big jeep. ஓகே, ஒரு ஜீப் வாங்குறீங்க இல்ல ஒரு ஆடி கார் வாங்குறீங்கன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். then they'll make a token delivery by giving you the keys of the car. Excuse me, எல்லாம் முடிச்சிட்டீங்களா? Excuse me. Okay, so sorry. So delivery is nothing but voluntary transfer of portion of goods from one person to another. Okay, voluntarily someone is going to give away your goods. Okay, so you're asking for something and that person is giving you away the particular property, right? And in this, as I was telling you, this delivery can be a physical delivery or it can be a token delivery depending on the circumstances. Whatever circumstances that you are in, it can be either a token delivery or a, excuse me 1 minute. என்னைக்காவது ஒரு நாள் பசங்க எல்லாம் சேர்ந்து இந்த எக்ஸ்கியூஸ் மீ சொல்லி சரியா நீங்க கிளாஸ் ஓட்டுறீங்கன்னு திட்ட போறாங்க. So token delivery is, let's say that you are purchasing an Audi car. Okay, instead of delivering the car directly to you at that point itself, they'll give you the keys away. Okay, adukapra if you are going to transport it to a long distance, let's say that you are buying a Rolls Royce which is not exactly available in India and you are exporting it from overseas, and then what they'll do is they'll give you a token as a token of the token delivery. They'll give you the keys or the spare keys and then the car will be exported to you. Okay, so that is called as your token delivery. Either physical delivery will be done or your token delivery will be done. Okay, so the transfer of goods from one person to another will be considered a delivery under a sale of contract only when he transfers the when the goods transferred is a voluntary process. Okay, when they willingly transfer you the goods, then that is called as delivery. Where ஏதாவது coercion இருந்ததுன்னா that will be not considered as delivery, and that will not come under the purview of contract of sale at all. Okay, even though they might have paid for it. இப்ப undersell பண்ணுவாங்க, நிறைய பேர் வந்து undersell பண்ணுவாங்க. They'll threaten people, they'll coerce people, and they'll try to undersell the property. அந்த cases it will not exactly come under your delivery. Okay, because that wasn't a voluntary decision. Next one is transfer is done by means of theft, fraud, or force. Okay, if it's going to be a theft or fraud, then that is not exactly a delivery. Okay, because again it is not voluntary. Owner kitrundu, without the owner knowing, someone has taken away the goods, and after which it is delivered to you. So it is not actually a successful transfer of title. Okay, someone has done it by force, so that will not be considered as delivery. And third one is mere possession of goods does not constitute the valid delivery of goods. Okay, just because someone is possessing a good at one point of time does not mean that the goods have been delivered to them. It has to be to the right person under the contract. Okay, so on a contractual basis, two people might have signed in the contract, and only when it is delivered to the right party and the right party owns it and starts enjoying the property or is enjoying the goods, then it is called as a delivery. Okay, now what are the characteristics of acceptance of goods by a buyer, or what are the buyer's rights? Okay, first one is buyer intimates the seller that he has accepted the goods. Okay, it is the duty of the buyer to inform the seller that he has accepted the goods. Okay, if it's um, if it's going to be especially when it's going to be an immovable property, then the buyer has to inform the seller that they have taken charge of the property or taken charge of the goods. Okay, next is retain the goods, and after the lapse of a reasonable time without intimating the seller has rejected them. Okay, so usually when you are going to buy anything from Amazon, ஏதாவது ஒரு online e-purchase பண்ணீங்க, e-commerce websites, if you are going to purchase, they have for some goods, that is not for all goods, for some goods they have a time frame wherein you can return those products. If you're not happy with the products, you can return those products. And some people, after the time has elapsed, they'll come and say that no, see, I'm not happy with the products, I want to return the product. In that case, that will not be considered as a proper call. Okay, it is a duty, again it is a duty of the buyer to let the seller know that whether he is happy with the product or not happy with the product within the time frame mentioned. Okay, there is always a time frame. So the buyer has the responsibility to inform the seller of the circumstances under which he is rejecting it. He must also explain to the seller under what circumstances he is actually rejecting the product. Okay, next one is, does any act on the goods which is inconsistent with the ownership of the seller? For example, pledges or resells. If the seller sends the buyer a large or smaller quantity of goods, sorry, that is a separate point. Sorry. Okay, so does any act on the goods which is inconsistent with the ownership of the seller? Okay, so the owner behave panama, if you are going to get it and again pledge it again, and the improper use. See, some of these properties and some of these goods under the contract of sale, see, you are always welcome. After buying anything, you're always welcome to resell the product as long as it does not interfere with some laws. Okay, especially for stock trading lalam pathinga appadina, you cannot just buy and sell it. Absentees thamma, ellame absentees tham. So you cannot buy and sell it at a whim. There are some laws that control the buying and selling of shares. Okay, you cannot do it repeatedly and so often, and if there is going to be a pattern, you will be questioned by SEBI. Now SEBI has certain laws under according to which you are supposed to trade your stocks. Okay, so you are supposed to behave as a owner of the particular property and not behave in an erratic manner. Okay, and the owner see, owner of any property means that the person actually keeps the property and enjoys the property. That's usually who is called as a owner, right? And he enjoys in some form or the other, whether he's using the property physically or not, he enjoys it in some form or the other. But if you are going to constantly buy and sell something, then there is going to be a pattern, and the pattern will be questioned. Okay, fine. Okay, finally, if the seller sends the buyer a larger or small quantity of the goods than ordered, then the buyer may reject the whole package. Okay, so if he's sending more than what you have ordered or less than what you have ordered, then the buyer may reject the whole package or accept the whole package and claim for damages. Okay, and if it's going to be large quantity, he accepts only the quantity that he has ordered and rejects the rest. Okay, இது யூசுவலி எங்க நடக்கும் அப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா, இந்த ஸ்மால் குவான்டிட்டிஸ் பர்ச்சேஸ்ல என்ன பண்ணுவீங்கன்னா, நீங்க போய் வந்து 1 kg இது கேட்பீங்க. ஆர் திங்க் ஆஃப் யுவர் பிகர் ஃப்ரூட்ஸ். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள், ஒரு வாட்டர்மெலன் கன்சிடர் பண்ணுங்க. யூ மைட் நீட் ஒன்லி ஒரு 1 kg ஆஃப் வாட்டர்மெலன், பட் த வாட்டர்மெலன் மைட் ஆக்சுவலி come around, weigh around 2 kgs, right? Then the shopkeeper will persuade you or try to convince you to get the whole 2 kgs and not try to cut off that watermelon, because once it cut off, it becomes quite stale, and if it's left in open, it becomes quite stale, and no other people might want to buy that. Okay, so you can either accept the watermelon, reject the watermelon, or accept the quantity that you only ordered and reject the rest. Okay, it's entirely up to the buyer. Okay, in that particular sense, the seller cannot influence, or he can try to persuade, he can try to convince you, but he cannot demand that you actually take the entire quantity or given smaller quantity. Okay. Okay, with that, I complete your fourth unit. Fourth unit, Sales of Goods Act, is over. And moving on, your fifth unit is Negotiable Instruments Act. I'm only going to give you the introduction of Negotiable Instruments Act, and from next class onwards, we'll discuss it in detail. Okay, but what are negotiable instruments? Negotiable instruments means a promissory note or a bill of exchange or a check or payable to either order or to the bearer. Okay, someone is ordered or someone bears those instruments. Okay, these negotiable instruments. But what are negotiable instruments? It might be either a promissory note between two parties, that you promise something and you tell them that you will pay back the amount, or you will give the property back to them, or whatever, right? So promissory note or a bill of exchange or a check. Okay, and this Negotiable Instruments Act came into force in 1881, and it extends to the whole of India except Jammu and Kashmir. Now, Jammu and Kashmir, they have certain laws of their own, and this Negotiable Instrument Act does not completely apply to Jammu and Kashmir. All right, so the act deals with three specific cases of negotiable instruments. One is your promissory note, another one is your bill of exchange, and third one is your check. Okay, and the act does not apply to Indian Paper Currency Act 1871. So paper currency is completely completely different from your it does not come under your negotiable instruments at all. Okay, and second one is the local usage relating to any instrument in the Oriental language. So for example, there are these hundis. If you go and Google hundis, you'll have these people who are actually writing up whatever. So let's say that someone is coming and getting money from you. Okay, so they'll just write it up, and there will be no legal, there will be signature of both the parties. Let's say that you're coming and getting some money from me. You are getting a loan from me, and you're collecting a loan from me, right? And you're collecting a certain amount of money from me. Okay, so we are both signing a piece of paper, but that is not a legal document. Okay, it's just a paper, and that person is usually who the vaddi madri, vaddi, it's called as vaddi, right? So those hundis will not actually come under your Negotiable Instruments Act. Okay, there are some cases in which hundis also come under Negotiable Instruments Act. We'll see where those apply in later cases. Okay, but before, this is your Negotiable Instrument Act as a whole. But before finishing this class, I want to talk about a case study. 1 minute. I'll share that case study. Board. அந்த கோட்ஸ் மாதிரி போடுங்கடா. இங்க ஒரு பெரிய கோட்டு, இங்க ஒரு அந்த டபுள் கோட்ஸ் இருக்குல்ல, அதை போட்டீங்கன்னா தான் கோட்டுன்னு தெரியும். இல்லைன்னா இது ஏதோ வந்து மிஸ்பிரிண்ட் ஆன மாதிரி இருக்கு. ஏதோ ஒரு பேஜ்ல வந்து தெரியாம எதையோ ஒண்ணு போட்ட மாதிரி இருக்கு. அந்த கோட்ஸ் போட்டீங்க இல்ல, ரைட் சம்பர் கோட்ஸ் எங்கேயாவது எழுதுங்க. 39 39 இல்லம்மா. ஓகே ஓகே சாரி 3010 ஓகே ஓகே மட்டும் எஸ்டி சார் ரெஃபரன்ஸ் வாங்கிட்டேன். அப்புறம் எஸ்எம்எம் ஆர்கே மட்டும் தான் எல்லாமே பெண்டிங். அந்த இது போட்டிங்களா, அந்த 3B க்கு 3 அந்த 2B அட்டெண்டன்ஸ் போட்டிங்களா? 30 மட்டும் அது மட்டும் போட்டு அதை மட்டும் போட்டு கொடுக்குறேன் ப்ளீஸ். அதுல இருக்குல்ல 3B அட்டெண்டன்ஸ் இருக்குல்ல. Did you talk? Did you talk to him? Okay, so the parties in this case are, you're able to see the case, right? The idu theriyuda, page theriyuda, website theriyuda?
Yes ma'am.
Yes ma'am.
இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் பெருசா போடுறா, இந்த கொட்டேஷன் இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் பெருசா போடு, இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் பெருசா இருக்கு, அது கோட்டுன்றது தெரியணும், அவ்வளவுதான். சரியா? Okay, so the case is between Coffee Board versus the Commissioner of Commercial Tax. Okay, and this is a very famous case as far as your contract of sale is concerned. Okay, but what are the facts of the case? Facts of the case is, there is a rule according to which all the coffee producers, they are supposed to redirect all their homegrown coffee. அவங்க என்ன coffee manufacture பண்ணிருந்தாலும் they are supposed to sell it to the Coffee Board. Okay, and Coffee Board is supposed to accept those coffees that are manufactured by these people, irrespective of whether they want it or not. Okay, they may have their inventory full and they may have their stock full, but according to Coffee Act of 1942, they are supposed to accept all the coffee. Okay, and this particular case is between this Coffee Board and Commercial Tax, because this Coffee Act, this Coffee Board, they say that since this is bylaw, I'm accepting the coffee bylaw. The Coffee Board is accepting this is a mandatory delivery, right? There is no volunteer pandranga, but this is a mandatory delivery to the Coffee Board, and since we are accepting, we are forced to accept. By law, we are forced to accept the coffee. We don't have to pay taxes. Okay, and they are also invoking Article 286, which says that if your goods are going to be export to Article 286 of the Constitution, Indian Constitution itself. So in the edathula theriyum, so they claim that they are immune under Article 286 of the Constitution, because Article 286 states that when you are actually going to export something, directly going to export, and if you are going to be the third party between the player and the exporter, between the seller and the exporter, then you need not pay tax. So in the rendu vecha avanga enna solranga appadina, we are just acting as an agent here. right? We are getting it from the coffee manufacturers, and we are going to sell it to the general public, or we are going to, this is mostly export material coffee, so we are going to export it, so we do not need to pay tax அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொல்றாங்க. And it goes to the high court. Initially it goes to the high court, and the high court rules that no, see, this, even though this is a mandatory delivery, still this comes under the purview of Contract of Sales Act, because there is always a consideration, right? There is always a consent, and you are paying for that coffee. You are consenting to buy that coffee, and you are paying for that coffee. So you are, there is, even though it is a mandatory delivery, this is also a mandatory acceptance. There is acceptance from your side, there is consideration from your side. So this will come under the purview of under the purview of Sales Act. And another thing is, they say that the high court says, okay, that was not claimed by the high court, so இதுதான் high court சொல்றாங்க. So அது again என்ன பண்றாங்கன்னா, the coffee board, they go to the Supreme Court. Okay, so Supreme Court போறப்ப என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா, again the commissioner of taxes, the commissioner of commercial taxes, they are invoking this coffee board is Coffee Board of Karnataka. Okay, so this was a case between commercial tax and Office of Commercial Tax and the Coffee Board of Karnataka. So on the other side, the respondent also, they claim that the Commissioner of Commercial Taxes, they had also invoked the Karnataka sales tax, and claim that according to this provision, the board is under the liability to pay tax. Okay, so the state had its own revision of sales tax, and according to that revision, they are supposed to pay tax. Okay, and Supreme Court la enna solranga, you cannot exactly invoke Article 286 of the Indian Constitution here, because not all of the coffee that you are buying from the coffee manufacturers are of export quality, and the nature of export sale is vastly misunderstood by the coffee board அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொல்லிடுறாங்க. Okay, but in the end the coffee board had to pay the taxes. Okay, but the issue in this particular case was, the main issue in this particular case was the consent to buy coffee, because வந்து இதுல என்ன படிச்சிருக்கோம்னா, there are two parties always in the contract of sale. There are two parties, one is the buyer and the seller, and the buyer should be willingly giving the money, and the seller should be willingly delivering. He should voluntarily deliver the products that he has manufactured, or products that he is meant to sell, right? So this coffee manufacturers, they are voluntarily delivering under the Coffee Act, they are voluntarily delivering the coffee. But this coffee board is claiming that since this is mandatory, since this is due to the act, this is just a mandatory delivery. That's not a volunteer delivery. This is this mandatory delivery, and it cannot be considered as an exact delivery under the Sales Act. Okay, under the Contract of Sales Act அப்படின்னு claim பண்றாங்க. But then Supreme Court moves the case against them. Okay, புரிஞ்சுதா? யாருக்கா டவுட் இருக்கா இந்த கேஸ்ல?
No ma'am.
Okay, so you can always use this case for Sales Act. This is one of the major cases as far as your this thing is concerned. This is one of the major cases. Again, citing this particular case, there was also another case. கீழ இருக்கும். So there was also this other case. See, in this case, this is again Indian Coffee Board versus the state of Madras. Back then, way back then, even before Tamil Nadu, appa vandu irundhathu. Okay, so this was Indian Coffee Board against the state of Madras, and it was held that there was no contract either express or implied between the board and coffee grower. Okay, and இது வந்து என்னன்னா, it was a completely different case, because in case of Coffee Board against commercial tax, there was always this immunity provided by Karnataka sales tax. But in the case of the state of Madras, they did not have that particular provision, and they did not have sales. That provision was not there in the sales. Sorry, the provision was not there in the Madras Sales Act. Okay, there should have been some sales tax for the state of Madras, and the provision it was not there in the state of Madras Sales Act. Okay, so they did not have this immunity. Indian Coffee Board, they did not have this immunity. Sorry, state of Madras, they did not have this immunity. So Indian Coffee Board, you need not pay taxes in சொல்றாங்க. So different cases la different இது வந்திருக்கு, but this is one of the mile mark cases, landmark cases as far as your contract of sale tax is concerned. Okay. Okay, please switch on your cameras.